Is standing strong with the men and women of law enforcement who are trying to maintain public safety on college campuses across the country. Where you have protests that correctly use the First Amendment, that's allowed. But where those protests turn into illegal activities, breaching the law, threats, violence, etc., that's playing out on a regular basis on campuses across the country right now, I think it's important to make a strong statement that we stand with the men and women of law enforcement to be able to come in and reestablish public safety on our college campuses immediately. If college campuses like Columbia or in my home state in Madison, Wisconsin had done that sooner, we would have been better served.
Is this it, though, Congressman? We're told the Senate has no plans to even act on this legislation. Is this essentially a messaging bill from the House?
Well, I have a lot of concerns with the inaction of the United States Senate. Number one is they haven't acted on the House's passed border security measure. And so Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate continue to stonewall lots of good legislation. I'd love to see the Senate take a lot more up or down votes because I think we could get a lot more done on behalf of the American people.
Well, there are still some things that the Senate is working on, sir, if not actually H.R. 2, which I think we all knew upon passage when it passed with no single Democratic vote in the House was never probably going to make it through the Senate. But they are working on the FAA reauthorization up against a deadline of May 10th. There's questions around what amendments could look like and exactly the timeline here. But we also know some things may not be included in that FAA bill, which could be a vehicle for other things to get through Congress, including stablecoin and safe banking legislation, which I know you pay attention to as a member of the Financial Services Committee. If it doesn't get attached to this piece of legislation, Congressman, is it going to get done in this Congress?
I would rather see things pass as single-issue vehicles. That's not always the case of how things get done in Washington. At the end of the day, I think we would be well-served to pass both of those pieces of legislation, in particular the crypto side. I can't tell you how many individuals that I know in the innovation space as it relates to crypto that are interested in a U.S.-based legal framework. If we were successful in passing the House committee-passed legislation, we would have an opportunity to bring a lot of that development work here onshore into the United States. This is a huge opportunity for the future of finance.
How about a legal framework for cannabis companies, Congressman? That seems to be the same conversation we keep hearing. Is it stablecoin and safe banking attached potentially to this FAA bill? Would you be comfortable with both of those hitching a ride?
The Safe Banking Act, I think, is less actually in the policy of marijuana, which I'm not a big fan of. But I think
Understood.
It's saying we don't want the social policy inside bank regulation. We see that time and again from both the left and the right, where we see individuals trying to place social policy on bank regulators. Bank regulators should be focused in on the risk that's existing, in particular to depositors. And so that vehicle, though, might need to find a ride. I'd rather have single-issue votes. Congress in Washington would be far better served if we had more up or down vote on single-issue bills. Unfortunately, that's not how this place works. So if we can figure out a way to get that across the line, at the end of the day, I'd be supportive of it.
Well, speaking of the workings of the place, sir, it has been difficult to get anything across the line. Many rule votes, just procedural votes, have gone down in this Congress. It's been very difficult for your Speaker, Mike Johnson. And next week, if your colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is to be believed, she will be forcing a motion to vacate, which Democrats have said that they will vote to table. How weakened will Johnson be if Democrats step in to help him on this?
Speaker Johnson's done an admirable job in incredibly difficult circumstances. I think it would be a mistake to have that bill brought forward. If it does, hopefully we are able to table that quickly. It really functions as a distraction to the biggest issues of the day. We should be far more focused on working to bring inflation down and secure the U.S.-Mexico border rather than focusing in on the internal politics. But as you say, it's a narrowly divided Congress. Things are difficult here, but hopefully we can dispense with this quickly.
I know you want to support the Speaker, and you will support the Speaker if this comes to the floor, Congressman. But do you worry about the impression that it will give your conference if it requires Democrats to save Mike Johnson? Does that weaken him in the long term?
I don't think it does. I think what people are going to look at is the record. We've actually done a lot of work here in the House of Representatives, despite a lot of the rhetoric questioning whether or not we would be able to get bills done. Not only did we navigate through the debt ceiling now about a year ago, but under the leadership of Speaker Johnson, we actually reduced spending year over year for non-defense, non-veteran spending. That's a huge step in the right direction. It hasn't been done in Washington in over a year. So again, I think there's a long record of what Speaker Johnson has done very well. And I think at the end of the day, if this is ultimately brought forward, it will be dispensed with quickly.
While we talk about the leader of your chamber, sir, I'd like to ask you about the de facto leader of your party overall, because Donald Trump was in your home state of Wisconsin yesterday. He actually gave an interview to one of your local outlets, the Milwaukee Journal-Centennial, in which he was asked whether or not he would accept the results of the election in November. His answer, sir, was, if everything's honest, I gladly accept the results. If it's not, you have to fight for the right of the country. Congressman, would you tell your constituents in Wisconsin that they have any reason to believe that our election will not be honest?
I think we got a great opportunity, not only in Wisconsin, but across the country, to have a safe and secure election. I've been working on election integrity legislation here in the House that I think could actually garner bipartisan support and move us forward. There's opportunities to change the law, in particular as it relates to foreign funds that continue to find their way into U.S. electoral politics. I think there's opportunities to move us forward. Broadly speaking, we have a strong election system, and in particular, making sure that people take advantage of voting is good for our democracy. The more people that vote, the better off we are.